Hello, everyone. It's me, Madam Pamita, and I want to welcome you to our little Instagram live interview series that we'll be sharing here on Instagram, doing live on Instagram, and also sharing on YouTube and TikTok. It's called Meet My Familiar. So today we are going to be interviewing Raven Allison, and I'm very, very excited because we're going to be talking about wolf guides, talking about animal guides, and which is another aspect of working with animals in your magic. So we're going to be talking about that. The reason we're doing this, why we're doing this, is because I have a new book coming out from Hay House in January 2025 called The Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars. This is a book for mindfully connecting to the animals in your life, whether they're your pets or the wild animals around you. And if you've really ever wanted to make magic with animals or find out about making magic with animals, this is the book for that. So if you pre-order The Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars right now, well, I'm going to say this. Do you want a free $40 full moon workshop? Normally these workshops are $40. In January, my workshop is going to be Intro to Animal Familiars. And if you pre-order the book, you will get that workshop for free. All you have to do is go to animalfamiliars.com and you pre-order, and then you'll pick up your bonuses, including some bonuses to come, which is very, very exciting. So while I was talking to the magical people around me, I found out that everyone that is involved in magic, almost everyone, has amazing stories to tell about the animals in their life. So I'm very, very excited about talking to Raven about working with the wolves and wolf spirits. So this is very, very fun. So let's bring her on, and then let's see while she's getting on here. Um, let's see. Well, I'll tell you about her. So today, there she is. Hello, how are
Hello.
you?
I'm
So
great, thanks.
today we're meeting with Raven Allison, and we're talking about their animal guide, which is the wolves, working with the wolves. Ms. Raven Allison is a mystical guide and ritual occultist who specializes in otherworldly and collective shadow integration. She's dedicated to providing experiential methods for others to become more self-aware and aligned with themselves. She empowers others to become their own medicine by reflecting their own capacity to integrate their unconscious shadow parts. So Raven teaches the ritual of art shadow integration, bridging embodied dream work with witchcraft and shamanism. She believes that when we allow ourselves to explore the shadow in safe, non-judgmental, embodied ways, we can achieve a deeper, holistic, multidimensional integration. Raven comes from an environmental educational background and strives to walk in balance with both worlds as one, inspiring others to find the magic within being a human on earth. I love that. I love
Oh,
your
thank you.
bio. It's so beautiful. So beautiful and so important. That work is so important. So, is there anything else you want to add, like where people can find you as well? Where can they find you and do
Um,
this beautiful work?
yeah, I have a YouTube channel that I recently kind of like rebirthed, and I have a podcast. You can find me on Instagram, and I do a lot of like one-on work, mentorships, and have students and such like that.
Yeah. So, is the URL Raven Magic
It's
or
always the Raven Magic.
Raven Magic? Okay. So everywhere you just type in the Raven Magic, all one word with the K at the end, and you'll find Raven and all her offerings. Wonderful. I know it's so handy when it's the same name everywhere, and then people can find you on their favorite platform. So I know we had talked about, I'd reached out to you to do this interview. I was so excited because you had said, well, I don't have a familiar, like an embodied physical familiar, but I work with wolf spirits. So I'm so excited to talk to you about that. So tell us a little bit about your work with the wolves and what you do and how this came about, maybe is the best place to start.
Yeah, I think like right off the gate, I just want to kind of say that wolf is actually not like my main power animal, but it is a specific animal that I want to discuss because of the avenues of which it has like interacted with me in my life. I feel like most people walking a spiritual quest of any sort are working with otherworldly guides and allies, and the animals specifically, especially in regards to the shadow and shadow integration, which I don't see many people talking about, can be like just such an intrinsic ally because of the way, and I've seen people like speak about this in the physical realm for million years, because of the ways that animals actually interact with us in the physical earth realm. And then also they have like an archetypal dream layer, right? Of their stories, of our projections onto them and everything. So they're kind of just like this real gold mine for the shadow, I think. And wolf specifically has been an animal that I was quite passionate about as a child. I grew up with dogs. And I really, I went to school for environmental science, fish and wildlife. I was very much, spearheading in the Algonquin, like red wolves becoming their own species, and just really, really captivated by their, I think maybe the dog energy, but also just that like innate pack animal. And then it just kind of as an otherworldly or more shamanic or, witch's ally, it kind of just came in and out of my life at different points. And I think we can dive deeper into that, but it ended up like just revealing even more and more layers. And like, even in relation to like how we might want to work with some of our guides and our animals. And like, a lot of times people coming to work with me might say that. They'd be like, Raven, I have all these animals and these guides, but I don't necessarily know how to put them together. I know maybe your book will help people with that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just been, I think, especially now, I just turned 42 on the weekend.
Happy
So I think,
birthday.
thank you. But I want to kind of mention the quest through like middle age. I feel like the wolf in that wild woman archetype, in that, this raw feral energy that has been tamed collectively. I feel like it is just so powerful, and I don't want to tangent all over the place, but even as like man's original enemy, you know what I mean? Like we have that. I know you're in the US, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm in Canada, but I know that like the wolves were originally completely like extirpated and extinct in the US. And like, yeah, so and because of that fear, right? That story driven fear. So
Mhm.
I think they're really powerful to work with.
It's so interesting too, because the history of the wolf is the history of dogs. And so while they like wolves that became domesticated, or maybe let's say individual wolves who are more open to that domestication process way, way, way back when, separated out. And so we have this wolf as our strongest ally and the wolf as the biggest enemy. And that dichotomy is so interesting that the that there's kind of two views of the wolf as they became more domesticated. And I think really, as I talk about in my book, um, what the witch's familiar is, or when we work with animals and we work with physical animals, we are and with animal spirits as well, but what we are doing is going back to the original prehistoric view of animals as helpers and guides, and we cooperatively work with them.
Mhm.
This idea that which came about in Christianity, which is that we have dominion over the animals, that the animals are our servants and our slaves and our that they are there to serve us, is a newer concept. And the older concept is that we work like cooperatively, either to protect ourselves from dangerous animals or to have animals guide us or teach us or show us, from the birds showing us that the seasons are changing, and the insects and the animals being born, all these things. I mean, this was how people were attuned. And now, where we have become ourselves so distant from nature, it's interesting to see that. Do you ever like so you do spend time in spirit with, do you have a particular wolf that you work with, or do you work with wolf as a collective, or that's, I guess, my first question about that.
Yeah, I feel like for me, the way, and I know everybody is going to be different in the way that they experience, like, the liminal realms and space. But for me, I do have like a specific, like, otherworldly wolf ally. And like some of the biggest like highlights, I think wolf for me was almost like kind of like a blind spot, because on the surface of, me growing up, I was very captivated by it as a species and an animal, like I said. But then, when it would come in when I would be journeying or in a ritual, I know not everybody has, visualization as their like spiritual gifts. But for me, like, you know, I kind of grew up in a spiritual friendly home. So my imagination never got like, taken offline. So I could like, I'll almost like even sense wolf coming into the space. And I feel like it wasn't until maybe 4 years ago where I actually started paying more attention to like the when or the what. And wolf, yeah, like I have physical ailments. One time I was journeying and wolf would come in and show me like different herbs or things, and and then you go and cross reference it in a book and it would just be exactly what I needed. So I really started more so leaning into it. um, but hopefully that answers your question, but I could kind of go as deep, I guess, as you want to take it. And so,
Yeah.
like, just because it really has, like, I've taken it into, even like I do a lot of embodied work. So I found this scarf and then I crafted like a tail and ears. And I don't always recommend putting animals or things or anything in the body. Like if it's triggering like a re-traumatization, that's something you want to watch out for. But I feel like when we're, to go back to what you were saying, where the patriarchy, where the church, where all that stuff kind of really separated human into above everything else, a lot of us, and this isn't our fault, it's just I was even like this growing up, like oh, the animals coming in, Raven, my name Raven. I get a lot of people that are like, oh, the Raven came to me and this and that, and we kind of just take it at this surface level, where when we put something in the body, sometimes like that's where we can partner even with an animal. So wolf, as an example, really helped me. Like they're psychologically treated very poorly in reality,
Mm-hmm.
right? And hunted. And so I think like it really helped me integrate a lot of like sexual assault trauma or things like that. Where and why this is effective is because if you can partner with an animal that's treated similarly, it actually allows you to have like an ally and a projection that is removed from the actual event, and it can relate that way. So, and I learned, like, if you're like, oh, where did you learn this from? It's like I learned by leaning into that connection with some of my animals, and wolf was one of those, where it was like if I just got out of the way and kind of started more listening to that and what I was receiving,
Mm-hmm.
then that's kind of how I learned those things. And I found it was a really effective way to like move through a lot of hard stuff.
And also, like, I love this, that wolf is like teacher to you, showing you, maybe further down the path on that protective energy and that, let's say, savvy on how to navigate things, that wolf is being a teacher for you. So beautiful,
Yeah.
right?
And I think that's even like if you look at some of like the medicine books or cards or things like that, that's what people usually attribute to
Yeah.
wolf. It's like sometimes they call it the teacher or family.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
This is such an interesting thing. I have a section on wolves in my book specifically. So I have there's spells woven throughout, but then I picked some animals that were, popular animals, mostly North American animals. I didn't go into, because that, this is who the States and Canada are going to be the main, people that are going to see this book. So I looked at these animals that were indigenous to the lands where we live and we are on, and wolf being one of those animals that people feel a real attraction to, a magnetism to. And probably, I think when you look at that animal, there's a, it's like it's a cooperative coming together, almost like when you meet a new friend, right? It's not like you are pursuing the friend. You meet a new friend because you both gain from it, or there's something for both of you. So I think wolf gets from you something, as well as you getting from wolf as well. You are focused on wolf, saving wolves, getting, all of these other things that are show the reciprocity of that relationship. Do you ever spend time with wolves in real life?
I haven't in a very long time, but I have had encounters in my life, and I do feel like they're
So
really
special.
majestic. Yeah, they're
Yes.
very special, and I'm glad that the wolf made it into the book. That's another thing too. I'm so curious, like I don't want to derail the topic, but did Raven make it
Yes,
in?
I talk about corvids and I talk about wolves because I wanted to. I mean, I have a section on birds, and then within that, we kind of looked at families of birds and then picked a representative for that
Oh,
family.
cool.
So we picked the corvids for the representative of the Passeriformes. I think they're Passeriformes. Oh, no, 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 they're corvids. So I think they just were their own section. I'm kind of trying to remember now. Anyway, um, so those, like we picked, there's some birds that, like a hummingbird is very different energy than a raven, and a dove is very different than those two. So we couldn't just pick one bird. I mean, that would be kind of weird. So we picked these kind of representative birds that would work, that people might be more interested in, but also looking at generally like spells and things that you can do with birds. And often these are very adaptable, meaning like the thing that you see for one bird actually might be adaptable to many animals with a little creativity, but certainly to other birds. So I give little examples of spells that you can do, but it's also a kind of a buffet for people to go like, oh, I kind of like that thing, I want to do that thing, and I can adapt this to my animals. So there's general ones, general spells for birds, and then also these other specific spells to certain birds. So yes,
Cool.
to answer your question.
Yeah, no, I
And
I was just curious because a lot of people don't know this. I think it's more common knowledge now, but like I often call myself like a wolf bird because ravens and wolves have a really beautiful symbiotic relationship in like the physical reality. I don't know if you would agree with this, but one thing that's helped me stay like rooted and grounded and more like really honoring the earth and the lands and things like that is very important to me. But one of the things that I found very interesting was that, because to go off of the story, I'm trying, like,
yeah.
I feel like I'm getting like so many downloads. I'm like, okay, organize my brain. But yeah, I think a lot of times we can get lost in the story of the animal. And so I feel like with Wolf and Raven, having worked with both of them, it was really cool to kind of take it beyond myth into like, okay, like, which came first, like Odin having wolves and ravens, or was it the wolves and ravens that then those stories come from, right? And so I think that if regardless, obviously we can talk about wolf, but if regardless of what animals those at home are working with, I think I would challenge you to kind of, take it beyond the archetype, like take it back to like how you see these animals interacting in the physical realm and see if there's some, magic there.
Yeah.
But
One of the things that I included in the book is doing shape shifting with
oh,
animals, where you talk about where you go in, your spirit goes into the body of the animal. It's not you. I mean, advanced shape shifting would be you turning into, something. I'm not there yet, and I don't know many people who are there yet. I do believe that like our ancient shamanic ancestors were able to do that, but I have yet to meet someone who has mastered that. But definitely it is within the realm of ability for most people to, if you've done vision work and meditation, for you to go on a vision journey where you do get into the body of an animal, including these like spirit animals, these and these animal guides that you can enter into so that you can understand them on a non story level. Like you get to your soul sits beside their soul. So I think this is where werewolves came in, was through shamanism. The idea of the werewolf, the human turning into a wolf or a wolf hybrid, came in through this idea of the shaman, and also the shamanic practice of wearing the skins of the animals and all of those things that are, something that goes back. Not that I advocate going out and killing a wolf and putting the skin on, but I do say that, like, if you're going, there's places that you can um, find, of course, within the realm of like what's legal, because there's a lot of laws about that, but you can find artifacts that are given freely and use those in your magic as well to have that experience and to work with them. Um, but this is that idea of the understanding these animals on a level that is their story, them showing you that. And many magical practitioners, whether they have a shamanic practice or they're a head twitch or they do vision work, I've talked to many who understand that process and do that process of entering into and going for a ride with the consent of that animal spirit. But it's a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, one of the things I just wanted to mention when you were saying the animal pelt, this is kind of sacred, so I rarely share these types of things, but I
yeah.
got the green light. I have wolf is actually connected to the Haudenosaunee Six Nations, which I didn't really know at the time, but like that's another thing. Like it kind of taught me that there's also obviously we know there's spirits of the land, but sometimes animals are trying to get your attention because there's like karmic things playing out, or your blood lineage is like not matching, or there's some kind of work that needs to be integrated within like the actual lands that you're settling on.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm kind of bringing this up is because you said about the pelt. One of the coolest things that happened with wolf was that one of my First Nations guides that like it's an interesting relationship I had. I don't want to like go into this story, but I've done a lot of deep inner colonial work just because I'm a shadow worker like that. Just I think like you just end up having to face like really deep stuff and it never ends. So don't race. Don't race through the shadow because it's like always there. But one time, um, one of those guides came and put like the wolf pelt over me. And that was like the first time that I had ever taken the form of wolf. So, I mean, you guys are going to have to figure out whether that's aligned for you. But just when you said that, that whole visualization came through. And I remember like feeling, the depth of like, he was very much guiding me of like, feel the weight of the fat, like the skin, like the fur, like, and like open your soul to just kind of like absorbing it in. And it was really, really powerful.
Mm.
And yeah, there's just been like some really deep, deep sacred. I consider wolf one of my most sacred
So
guides.
so beautiful too that you are doing this shadow work and integrating and um, healing and discovering. I always feel like shadow work is like an onion. You're always going to peel off one layer and say, I'm done. And then there's a new layer.
Yeah,
It's never
can be
ending,
quite
right?
traumatizing to be honest. Like I think like there's a lot of like rise of like dig into the shadow, but it is like
Yeah.
it is you don't want to kind of go too deep too fast because it can be, we never really know. We can have a kind of idea, but we never really know what's coming in. So definitely I highly recommend partnering with animals for that. I
Yeah.
think that they are good guides and good leaders and they won't like rush you through those types of things.
Yeah. This is so beautiful. So if you were to give any like tip or trick or advice to someone who wants to work with one of these animal guides, these animals in spirit form, and they want to get started, let's say, what would you recommend to them? Or is there something that you see as like, oh, how to find one? You have anything like that that you can share
Yeah.
with everyone?
Well, I just I feel like I'm so I don't know. I will say I came from like an extensive shamanic background in traditional neo and whatever, but like since I've actually like removed the label, I understand there's a lot of people that identify that way and I'm not judging them. It just like eventually I just kind of use it more as a term, but
Yeah.
I will say that right away there are those options for people. If you don't know what your power animal is or you don't have a guide, you can definitely set a ritual space, set an intention, and do an intentional journey to retrieve it. You can also go with a guide. However, I always like to just tackle everything in reality and the surface waking reality of our lives. I feel like we tend to overcomplicate magic and
Mm.
spirituality when it can be quite organic. And so I think it could be as simple as, if you're already attracted to an animal, you can kind of take that connection deeper by doing like an intentional journey, or, like you said, trying to kind of consensually ask it if you can like go into it. Another thing is kind of, opening that intention, walking out your front door, seeing what animal you run into, right? Especially if you have a specific thing that you're working on, you could say like, okay, I would like to connect with an animal that can help me through my imposter syndrome, as an example, and then walking out and receiving what's coming in. Another thing, you could pay attention to just what animals are naturally showing up. Like so many times, right? Like we'll be walking and then you're seeing dragonflies everywhere. You're seeing all these things, or you've stumbled upon this video and you've already seen wolf like 10,000 times in your feed. That's like a tap on the shoulder to me, to like that is calling your energy forward. So I think it's more about accepting the call that is naturally happening. But you definitely can get a drum track. Calm Whale on YouTube has a lot of really great drum tracks, and
Oh.
you can just set an intention. And I'm always a big fan of journeying. Another thing people do is incubate sleeping dreams. So you can set an intention to like meet the animal you need to connect with and see who comes in.
That's great. A great tip, because I talk about doing a vision journey to do a retrieval of an animal guide, like a power animal retrieval in the book, and having that open mind about what animal comes forward in those types of things is so important, because
Yeah.
like when I went through shamanic training, I went and did my power animal retrieval, and I was like, this was not the animal I was expecting.
Right.
This
It
was
never
not
is.
the one I was expecting. No, it can be so surprising. But on the other hand, like you said, in the real world, in real life, when my son was dealing with a health crisis, a serious health crisis, I kept seeing bears everywhere. Bears were everywhere. I would meet people with the dog named Bear. I would see bears and stickers. Obviously, I live in the city. I'm not seeing bears, but I would see bear images. And it started with one of my clients giving me this gorgeous 6 foot tall bear painting that she made, this absolutely
Wow.
gorgeous. And then just bears just like came like a flood. And then when his health crisis passed, then it went to trickle, and I barely see bears now. So I realized that spirit of the bear came to give me that mama bear energy that I needed during that time, lend that energy. And then once the crisis was over, 6 months later, the bear's images trickled out. So seeing it in real life again, like welcoming it. Bear has never been a big animal for me, came in huge for that time period. Who knows, if I'm dealing with something that I need that energy again, bear may come in again. But seeing, having that experience was so fascinating. And I actually saw no real bears. So you don't have to see the real animal
Right.
too. It can be, obviously, it would be sad for a bear to be in the middle of the city. That would be not a good thing. So it was bears that were coming through these messages. And then I did vision work and all of that with them too, which was so great. So
Yeah, that
such a good tip. Yeah, such a good
yeah.
tip you had.
I love that. And yeah, I really like bear. To be honest, bear is another animal that I worked with from December to March with an intentional group journeying like each month to like different, I don't like, it's just, I think the animal medicine is something that we see so much of. So I'm glad that your book is getting out there and everything else.
Yeah.
And I would consider that like, I know what people have different names, but like, I would love to like share this
Yeah.
really quick. Like to me, a power animal, like you said, that is not something you get to choose. That is what shows up, and you're just like, okay, I didn't know this was going to be me. But to me, a power animal is an extension of your personal power. And that's an animal that usually stays with you for like your whole life because it's an integration that you're doing. And then there's
Mhm.
like messenger animals, which I would call the bear.
Yeah.
Wolf to me is like a messenger animal turned like sacred guide. Like I don't necessarily even consider wolf like, yes, it's an animal guide, but it's just become like a guide, right? And
Yeah.
then, but messenger animals like that, that's a great example, your bear
Yeah.
story. And it might come back, right? Like it might come back at a different time when you need that energy. It's these animals that are coming in with a distinct purpose and a message and like a helping you along. Then there's like symbolic animals. So those are the animals that you're like have a collection of. You like collect cats. You got to get all the cat stuff.
Yeah.
Those are things that you just love, and that is a special symbol for you.
Yeah.
And then you can have like dream animals, and like I said, animals of the land. And sometimes it might take you like a while to like find out. It's not like you have to know, but a lot of times people want to label and compartmentalize. And so those are some of the things that I've just realized. But wolf energy, I would say like 100% any gender can work with wolf. But if you like you to go back to what you shared in the beginning, I 100% agree in that split dichotomy polarity. On one end of that leash, you've got the, you know, the blingy puppy collar, and on the other side, you've got like feral wild. And I think like, you know, it's not going to be for everybody, but I, you know, take it or leave it. I think that exploring the dog and the wolf in you, just as an energy, is going to reveal so much unconscious stuff that you do on a day-to-day basis that you had no idea you were doing until you looked at it from like that perspective. And I think that those, you know, that spectrum and the polarity is really, really powerful.
So
And I'm
good.
glad that Wolf's in your book
Yeah.
because like it deserves to be. It's like that, it's that big of an energy
Yeah.
collectively.
One of the things that I talk about, so I have a section on working with wild animals, and I think, in working with wild animals, when you have that momentary encounter from a distance, or you hear a wolf howling, or have a moment where your eyes connect and you look at one another, those little moments are so filled with power. It doesn't have to be that, in terms of working with animals, that they're there with you 24/7. It's great when you have pets and that your pets can possibly be a familiar, or work together with you on your magic, or they're just an awesome companion and a friend. But with the wild animals, it's like condensed in these little moments. So you could have one very special magical moment with a wild animal, and it could last 2 seconds and be done. But that could be so powerful, like such condensed energy in that. And so I think about, I'm not advocating for going out and domesticating wild animals, or making them friendly with people. Quite the opposite. We need to respect them and their wild nature, and let them be safe by not getting them accustomed to being around humans, because that can be not only dangerous for humans but dangerous for the animals, where they come too close and somebody has a gun and there you go. So so anyway, it's been so fun talking with you about Wolf and Wolf Spirit, and how Wolf has been so instrumental in healing for you, and your tips for bringing those magical animal guides and messengers and spirits into your life. I think this is so, so beautiful. So one last thing. So everybody can find you at The Raven Magic, magic with a ICK at the end, everywhere, all the places. This is your website, your handle here on Instagram, on YouTube. You've got an active YouTube channel as well, where you share some longer format things. So thank you so much, Raven. Anything else you want to add? Anything you want to promote? Things
I,
coming up or anything like that?
I kind of been laying low right now. I'm doing, I
The
think I'm
time
going
of
to
year.
start releasing a lot about like the Raven magic and how I perceive it. I feel like that's another really big energy that a lot of people are connected to.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would open, and yeah, there's this one, like when you were saying that, there's this one time in the forest, and I just like really want to empower people to get inside things as long as it feels safe. But like to go off of your shapeshifting, I don't have them on hand, but like I crafted like deer antlers, I crafted things. Like a lot of times we do this in aesthetics or whatnot. If you take it deeper, like when you put things in the physical realm, then you're building like a dreaming power. You're building that. And as a result, I've had Disney level experiences with wildlife in the forest, no food, no nothing, singing. Like, I have a video of me singing a rabbit right into me.
Oh
And
my gosh, amazing.
I've had real beautiful encounters with deer and other things because of my shape shifting or embodiment work. Because then it's like a muscle and you can just shift into it, and then you're not a predator, you're meeting the animal at like spirit to spirit. And we do that all the time in our magical craft and the dream and our shamanism like journeys and stuff like that. So I don't know. That's just like that's an area where I have found that like I don't really see many people like really taking it to that next level. And I do have a video on my YouTube on like shape shifting and like that explains how to do that, and how you can kind of like develop that imagination as like a muscle in the physical realm.
That's so great. That's so go to the Raven Magic at on YouTube and you can find that video, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you
so much.
so much. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing about this. It's so, so beautiful. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's watching or watching the replay as well. I wanted to let everybody know that our next Meet My Familiar will be with Ethan E. Dawn, and we'll be doing a live here on Instagram tomorrow, Thursday, December 19th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 1 Mountain, 2 Central, 3 Eastern. So we'll be doing same time just tomorrow. So thank you so much again, Raven. I hope you have a great, it sounds like what you're saying you're laying low. You're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing during winter time. So
Yeah.
this is a time of like being cozy and being, I always think of when I talk about bear in the book, I talk about that idea of like the hibernation energy of like how you can embody that hibernation energy, which is good for winter time to be just a little hibernating and cozy. Hooky,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'll look forward to getting your book when it's out.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be sending you one. So, you'll be getting that as soon as it comes out in January, end of January. All right. And reminder to everyone, go to animalfamiliars.com and you can sign up, pre-order the book and you can sign up and you can get a free $40 workshop. It's a great workshop where I'll be teaching all about, oh, and by the way, it can be the physical book or the audio book. I mean, audiobooks are like so much fun. I do a lot of audiobook listening because I'm driving all the time here in LA. But if you want to get that, either one of those will work it doesn't have to be the physical book, but go check it out by going to animalfamiliars.com. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Raven. All
Thanks.
right, take care. Happy holidays, happy winter, happy new year.
Thank you.
Bye.